Ladies and gentlemen, happy Friday. Welcome to Finish the Story. I am your host, Keegan Ray. I am joined here by my co-host, producer, and best friend, Mr. Trent Ludzak. How you doing, man? You're back.
I'm back.
You're back. Yeah.
Yeah, I missed one of these. I forgot.
Yeah,
I've been busy.
On the at the top of the last one, I tried to make a joke and I couldn't because I was having a panic attack about being in charge of the fucking video and the Zoom recorder and everything.
It's not
you already
that
know.
fun.
No, it's not. It's a lot. It's a lot going on. But you already know when we're on the same side of the table, it's a motherfucking guest episode. And today we have our hilarious guest, Mr. Jacob Worthington. How you doing, bro?
Hey, how's it going? I appreciate being in the command center of sorts. It has a command center vibe.
It does. It does.
You mean it looks like somebody half lives in here and eats in here regularly?
Yeah. Which, I mean, I've spent some time in some command centers, and they're very similar. They have very similar vibe.
Yeah. I think I got to stay console because I feel like once I take that step into like a PC realm and there's just endless games that I can fucking download and play, I'm going to get lost. I might disappear as a dad. Just fucking. Because, dude, when I come over here and I see all the games that you're rocking, I'm like, I just don't have that kind of control.
No, I don't. That's one reason why I didn't buy a PlayStation 5 until like a year ago. Is because mine, for the last like 12 years, I've been console-less. And it's made me productive in one way. You know what I mean?
Still tough, dude.
Yeah, but
you've missed so many great games.
Yeah.
it's hard to get back in.
Like,
it's
what-
hard to know like I like what's a good shooter, what's a good racer, like what's the last time I played like a fun video game. Like I was like Modern Warfare 2 was like what you shot.
Yeah.
I mean, he got me on Ghost of Tsushima.
Ghost of Tsushima was fun. We played that during the pandemic.
That's fun.
It's great.
We played that during the pandemic.
I like that one because my lady doesn't mind watching it. Like she likes to watch the story of it.
So my wife, she likes playing video games. She likes playing horror video games, but she likes playing about 15 minutes in, and then she goes, "Beat this for me," and then she just and then she just watches me play for like 2 hours later, and she goes, "That's great," and then just gets it back from me, and I just play. You know, she likes watching. She watches video game playthroughs on YouTube.
Okay.
So
Wait, so she walks through the cutscenes,
yeah. She's a big fan.
and then you do all the scary parts.
I do all the tough parts. She likes the mystery stuff. So whenever it's like
the puzzles and stuff. Okay.
Yeah. But then when it's like a giant like baby blob chasing you through like this dark corridor, she's like, "Can you get me out of here?" And I'm like, "Yes, I can do that."
That's kind of fun though.
She also plays on easy on everything, so it makes me feel like a god.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, dude, I'm the best video game player of all
dude.
time."
It's like opening up the mayonnaise. You're like, I got it, babe.
I go,
Don't
do you
worry."
want to try average or medium? And she's like, "No, I do not." I'm like, "All right, cool."
Yes. Yeah, I always feel like a loser when I have to look up like the puzzle. When I have to watch a YouTube video of somebody solving
I
it.
don't like to do that. She is very quick to do it.
I try
She goes,
not to be.
"We tried it twice.
Yeah.
Let's see what the internet says."
My problem with it is I don't have a lot of game time because I just had kids. So I'm always like, dude, I'm wasting precious fucking game time.
You just had kids, twins, or you just had
twins.
Twins.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, it's a fucking dude. They
How do you
just
like it?
started. It's fun. It's a lot. So it's relentless. I would say it's like doesn't matter. Every day you're waking up and doing it. And I watch them during the day. I'm like stay-at-home dad, so I watch them during the daytime, and they just started crawling and moving. Bro, it's insane.
I kind of want twins just so I can like.
Oh, be done. I'm done. 37.
baby.
I'm in and out. She asked me the other day, "Do you want kids?" I was like, "Get away from me. You want more kids?" I was like, "No, ma'am." What if we had twins again?
You could.
Dude, we
I have a
met a
friend who
lady
has
at the
twins.
farmer's
I have a
market
friend
that
who
said
has
that.
twins.
She was like, "Yo, I went for child 3 and got 3 and 4." I was like, "Oh my God." She looked miserable.
What do you have?
I had 2 girls.
Good.
Yeah,
What a
girls.
night.
You know,
Nightmare,
if you, it's something like
She had a wagon of kids.
a boy girl combo of twins. One of them has like a 75% higher chance of being gay.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Not if that bothers you or anything.
No.
But,
No, dude.
I'm just saying, it's just like it's a weird genetic thing.
That's crazy.
They're much more likely to be gay if they're a boy-girl set of twins.
Who told you that?
I'm a nurse, so I
You're
just
a
like I've been in a
nurse?
lot of like
What?
Yeah.
So you know shit like that.
Yeah. I've been in a lot of medical classes.
You know, they were saying that twins is a lot more common. Like every time we go in for the ultrasounds, that's what the ladies were saying.
Nowadays, because it's the
That they're seeing-
hormones, dude.
I guess,
All that
yeah.
chicken.
Yeah.
Maybe eat that chicken. That milk and chicken is just making everybody's womb like that much stronger. They're like, you know what? Throw 2 in here, dude. We're doing all right.
God, dude.
And the IVF, I think a lot of it's IVF.
Yeah, we didn't do that. Everybody's like, "Why?" It's weird too. The amount of
I
like,
just got strong balls, dude.
dude, the amount of
double
questions
barrel you know?
that people will ask you though out in public. They're just like, "Oh, was it IVF?" You're like, "Damn, I don't know you. We're in
you're
line at
fucking-
Publix."
They're like, is your dick bad? You got a bad dick? Did you need?
How is your sperm?
Did you need scientific support because your wiener's stupid? You're like, no.
Like, no, I was just drunk and forgot to pull out. And it's like, one of one
They
will
should
be
do
good.
genetic testing for that. Whether it's like, hey, just so you know, you get a higher likelihood of doing this twice at the same time. You know,
dude.
I mean, you maybe got the worst possible case scenario for getting to pull out.
I mean, literally, I'm not even just saying it to be funny. It
That's
was
as
a
bad as it
one
gets.
of one, dude.
you didn't pull. I saw this one.
One time. Like, there's people that are trying for months, and
got-
we just fucking accidentally were like, should be fine.
I
Twins.
saw a comedian, and he was like, I'm at the point in my life that I have to start asking myself, am I, like, when it comes to pulling out, am I the best there's ever been? Or am I sterile? You know what I mean? They're like, when you're 34,
Yeah.
35,
Yeah, you're like,
and
30
you've had a lot of sex with a lot of different
Yeah.
women, you're like, am I
that's
the
true.
best? Or
Am I the
am
Kobe Bryant
Yeah.
of pulling out? Or am I just a haunted house down there?
Yeah.
Got nothing going on. No swimmers. The pool is empty.
I don't know. I've had a couple skurs. So I had a one girl terminate an abortion, and then not terminate an abortion. I guess it was a successful abortion.
Yeah, yeah.
Terminated.
She canceled an
And
abortion
she canceled an
appointment.
abortion. It just had the baby, is what we call it.
Yeah.
And then another one had
Nah,
a
she
had
fell
a
down some
miscarriage.
stairs on the way.
She just showed up, saw those people standing out there, and was like, "You're right."
And another one had a miscarriage.
Going
So I definitely I'm locked and loaded.
Yeah, that's scary. The miscarriage thing is scary.
Well, we weren't trying, so it was
Yeah.
honestly God's will. Inshallah, as some say.
I've gotten those. I've gotten that call. I'm late. You're like late to work.
My wife did it to me when we were a year dating as like an April Fool's joke, and I
What?
didn't know.
Whoa.
I woken up. I just woken up. I didn't know it was April 1st.
That's no, dude.
And I was like,
That's fucking
I was
too
like,
far.
hey, I was like, I'm proud of myself because I was like, I'm here for you. Like my brain was like, dude, you gotta get out
Yeah,
of here.
get outta
But
here,
But my
dude.
mouth, there's whatever is in between there was like, you can't say that.
Yeah,
you gotta
yeah,
be. So I was like
Play
supportive,
cool.
and then I heard her start like snickering on the other line. I was like, what's going on? And she was
Yeah.
like, it's April 1st. I was like, thank God, dude. Thank God.
That's a cruel joke.
Yeah.
Hey.
Here's the thing. That's not a joke. That's she tested you hard.
That's fine.
She
I
tested you
passed.
hard.
See, I got
The
hit.
only-
I passed.
And the
Yeah,
only
you did
reason
pass.
it's a
That's
joke is
nice.
because you passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you would hit
If
her
I had
with,
been
I'm
like,
fucking
dude,
outta here.
you gotta get it
Yeah.
out.
I
dude.
just Venmo'd you $95.
You want to go jet skiing for like an hour straight?
Yeah, she hit me with it in the morning. It was like 6 a.m. She just plopped down on the end of the bed, and I like woke up and was like, "The fuck? Like, what are you doing?" She just was like staring at me, and she's like, "I'm fucking pregnant." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Is this one? Is that
Yeah,
this
yeah.
one?
I was like, "Oh my god."
Are you all married or are you?
No,
you
no. We're
spitting in
living
the face of
together.
the Lord?
Just spitting in the face of the Lord. Yeah. It's like, damn. But I was kind of looking at her like, you could have, waited till.
Well,
I
you
woke
know,
up at
it's
8:30.
not premarital sex if you never get married. Then it's, just, you know what I mean? You got to have a marriage for it to be before marriage.
Like Uno
That's a good
reverse
point.
Catholics.
I got you, you son of a bitch.
I know y'all are having a tough week, but Uno reverse.
I don't know if you've ever looked into like Judaism, but a lot of Judaism is surprisingly about like lawyering the religion.
Yeah,
and like
no, that's my
a lot of
favorite
it is
thing
like,
about
they're like technically, if you look at and like you're like, why do they make such good lawyers? It's like their religion is based around finding loopholes.
Oh,
I'm gonna be honest.
fucking-
I respect that so much that when I found out about that, I legit was like, "What do you got to do to be Jewish?"
Yeah.
And then I find out it's a lot.
Yeah,
so
they don't.
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
get to just join the tribe. baby.
Adult circumcision's what keeps me away from it. You know what I mean?
Wait.
What?
What if you already clipped?
Nope. You still got to ceremonially get clipped.
What do they? What?
So just because you were circumcised doesn't mean that you've passed the test. You're still gonna need to get a little snit.
I'm gonna do my thesis to graduate on why that's not necessary. I'm gonna lawyer the hell out of the
but
thing.
that's the cool thing is that if enough rabbis find wiggle room in the same area, the Jewish people will just be like, all right, that's law now. They'll be like, that's Torah, dude. Which is
I love
sick.
it. It's so cool, man.
That's crazy. An adult circumcision is nuts. Do they put you to sleep?
It's actually foreskin, but
I see what you did there. That's
no, dude. You gotta, you just gotta man up about it. I guess they numb it. I'm just wondering, does the rabbi still suck on?
Yeah.
the
Do you
wiener?
still get a little head
if that
afterwards?
happens.
It has to.
Because there's some other legal arguments I think within the religion we could make
Like,
about
come on,
that.
buddy. Look at me while you do it. That's what I
Yeah.
say.
Yeah,
I
make
say,
a little
look
eye
over me,
contact.
dude.
Yeah.
Grab his yarmulke.
That's what that little hat was for. Was just to make sure you didn't mess up.
Oh,
their
my
hair.
hand's sliding off with his moral sucking me, dude. Yeah, that whole thing. I was reading about that today. How fascinating when the Pope dies, because the Pope died on Easter.
Oh, they got a whole legal situation with that, dude.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Well, they go into what's it called? Source of the Sea.
I don't know, but it's like
it's
the
a bunch
throne is empty for 3 days and all
And then
that stuff.
they gotta go into council. They lock the doors. Like the cardinals all come in. They deliberate. It's very political because you're trying to get votes, and so like people will like block other people. It's like it's like a whole shenanigan.
That's insane.
I remember
The whole time you dress like Lord of the Rings. It's
What was
insane, dude.
What was the Pope when we were kids? Pope, was it not Francis? It's the one before that. John Paul.
John Paul.
Yeah, when I remember Pope John Paul died,
Mm.
and I saw a picture of a cardinal like outside they were like taking a break, and he was like smoking a cigarette on a cell phone, and I was like, they're not real. I was like, it's like if you're taking like a cigarette cell phone break while you try to argue over who's the next religious leader, you guys don't got it.
No, dude, the whole thing is fucking bizarre. I was like reading about it today, and I was like, "Yeah, this is cultish behavior." Like, this
Have you heard the conspiracy thing about the
Pope
last?
is
It's
Peter
the
Rabbit.
last pope. There's like one more pope left.
Oh
and
yeah,
then
yeah,
the world
yeah.
ends.
Because
Keegan, you haven't heard about this?
Nostradamus only predicted a certain number of popes, and I think we're on the last one.
So from what I saw,
This the
which
Pope
is
from
by the
Rome?
way from Instagram.
Yeah.
So this is not
Unreal.
correct.
Scholarly research. I have found that Instagram explained.
Let's just Google it and see. Right?
I think that aren't they killing red heifers and all that shit too? It's the end of the world, I think.
My theory on the end of the world is that, at least when it comes to like the New Testament, is it was written at that the default for the simulation is always the same. So like the backdrop. So like if you're in a video game, the like San Andreas like never changes. The way San Andreas works is always the way it works.
Right.
And I think they were saying that they were in the end times, and they were describing, having this great empire and having people are like this, and this is going on and that's going on. And so they basically just described what their environment was like. Well, if you fast forward for the last 2,000 years, that has always been the case. There's always a great empire. There's always this political strife. There's always this like underclass fighting against hierarchical structures. And that's just what the game looks like.
Yeah. It's just like flat circle.
So that's why everybody can always say, it's the end times. Like, look, it's like what, Revelations looks like. But it's basically just like that's just what civilization is.
It's always been.
That's the game. That's the format.
Yeah, I remember telling my dad one time when I was younger, I was like, everybody's saying it's the end of the world. He's like, dude, when I was younger, they shot Martin Luther King. They killed John F.
my mom
Kennedy.
said
He's like,
that.
people were going to
the
Vietnam.
president
He's
was-
like, dude, People were getting their ass kicked for having long hair. He's like, bro, we thought it was for real the end of the world.
Movie stars were getting scooped into cults and robbing banks and kidnapping like political. Like it was way crazier.
Yeah.
There's crazy stuff now. The technology stuff is really wild. But like the political unrest, at least in the United States, was way worse. And then you want to go back to World War II, dude. Shut up, pussy.
Yeah. And there was no mental health crisis when you came back. They were just like, fuck out of here, dude. Shut up. Get in the factory.
I mean, people in like the UK were just like, oh, they're everybody's blowing up right now. We've got to go into the subways. Yeah, dude. It's the time where everybody blows up. And they just like left the Great Depression. You know, it was World War I, the Great Depression, then World War II. And then we're just like, Elon Musk fired some people. It's over. You're like, dude, shut up.
Never really thought about it in that time frame.
You know what I mean?
It's like, God damn. Could it suck any worse? World War II.
Dude, yeah.
You're like, fuck. We were washing our aluminum foil. Could it get any worse? Dust Bowl.
The Polish were like riding horses into like machine gun fire at the beginning of World War II. They were like, get them, boys. And they were just, and they're like, oh, we misunderstood what was going on.
Things have changed. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it is right. It's bitch shit right now.
Love it.
I know. I love when I hear boomers talk about people being sensitive and like PC culture. And you're like, dude, you wouldn't even get in a pool with black people. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about, dude?
The cool ones wouldn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My least favorite thing about the boomers is their hard turn on drugs from being like the generation that did the 70s and were fucking the kids protesting at colleges. And then we're like, you know what, let's do a war on that now.
Well, the thing is, I think a lot of times the shittiest ones are the ones who end up like making the rule. Like the cool people in the 60s and the 70s aren't in Congress.
Yeah, they you know what I mean? Seek out political positions.
Yeah, they weren't like, hey, you know what I should do?
Hey, you know what I did? I ate acid, and I'm never going in politics.
I'm going to D.C. to change things. Yeah. They all run like regenerative farms.
I make soap.
I moved to the Himalayas, and that's what I do now. Like,
I got a bunch of records. Yeah, no, you're right. Those people don't get into politics.
No, the people who suck get into it. We select for monsters is what we do. You know, because you got to think about it like this. The amount of scrutiny and uncomfortability we put our politicians through while they're campaigning, their family, you know, their children, and they're constantly just like, this fucking, when you were 21, you had, you know, it's just everything. Your kid did, it's just like constantly. So whatever psychopath is willing to drag their entire family through that process, those are the people who run. Yeah. Like if you're like a conscientious, like normal person, you're like, there's no way I'm putting my family through this. How bad would it
suck to fucking your parents to be like the vice president, to be J.D. Vance's kid? Oh, you're like, dude, we can't even fucking go skiing.
Well, they're like 6. They're like 6. So it's I think that might be better than most. But like being like 14, like the Obamas, that must suck to be those kids.
Yeah, all eyes on you
constantly. You can't. I mean, and then you're like, what is it, like Chelsea Clinton? You're going through your awkward phase, like. On SNL is like making fun of you. You're like 14, 15,
they're
and
killing
they're
you with like pigtails and braces. You're like,
they're crushing you, and you're like, I'm a child. You're like coming into the Oval Office to find your dad getting blown by some intern on an SNL skit, and then you just have to go to school the next day.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, I think Michelle was like, I don't want you to run when he ran for both, but for Senate, and he filed without her knowing. She was like, I don't want this. I don't want you to do this. And he was like, I got it. And then filed behind her back and was like, oh, turns out I'm running for Senate.
Dude, you know that was a fucking fight. Yeah. You did what?
Dude, Big Mike probably beat his
Big
ass.
Mike. I was about to say it was a fight, dude. You got to fucking scrap.
That was a brawl.
They fucked at the end, dude. Probably the best. After a fight, dude, after breaking shit in your house, 2 grown men getting at it.
Dent in the fridge now. Yeah.
Yeah. That's always. That's like when people fight at the restaurant in the kitchen. It's like, dude, you don't realize how tight the space is until you watch people fight in the kitchen. You're like,
everything
crazy.
is a jagged edge.
Dude, yeah.
Dude,
like,
when they start like hockey pulling people's jerseys and you're just watching like metal tables and you're like,
You're looking at the grease like, oh my, it ain't that serious, dude. Just label the fucking crostinis.
Just label the fucking crostinis, dude.
Dude,
did you work fine dining or did you?
I did in Savannah. I've worked, dude. I've been in the restaurant industry for fucking.
Still?
Now?
Yeah.
No.
This isn't full time? You haven't?
No, now I do events and I work at a shitty brewery.
Okay.
Dude, which god damn it. The other day I worked a 13-hour day and we had fake IDs at the end of the fucking shift at like 12:30. It was like one of those.
You just tell them to go away? Or
bro, these were the shittiest kids. They look like they're in high school. The one kid had a fake. The girl's like, this is fake. And then my manager's like checking it. And then this one girl starts arguing because the manager's like, hey, y'all all got to leave. Everybody has to go. And the one girl's like, well, we didn't even order anything. Blah, 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 blah. Like, we can't stand here and hang out. And one of the dudes goes, no, that's fine. You're all going to hang out. And I'm going to call the fucking police on him. And he's going to go to jail. So y'all can all hang out. Not one more word was said.
They were like, well, we're going to go.
Yeah, I was like.
By the way, that ID is real, but on a side note, I've got to run away. I probably should.
Knew it was fake. As soon as somebody said fake, he started just like. It was a great ID, too.
Dude, I was walking down the street in Athens. I cooked for a really long time and cooked in Athens, but I was walking down the street in Athens, and there was like 2 or 3 girls and 2 or 3 guys walking, and they just asked me and my buddy, and they were like, do you have like an ID we could have for our friend who's like under 21? And I kind of looked like the guy just slightly, and I was like, you know what's crazy is I 100% do. And I had a driver's license and I had an identification card, just like a regular state issued identification card. And I was like, I don't fucking need this, and just gave it this. Like,
you just gave it to him?
Kid.
That's awesome.
So he had like a legit. 100%
Damn, an ID saint. They're like, I can't fucking believe that worked.
I was like, you're set, dude. I helped some dude out for 2 to 3 years. I hope he passed that on.
He probably
to some
did.
Other guy. He was like, you look like me. Come over here. Let me help you out.
We had IDs like that. People's older brothers, younger brothers. Like in Athens, when we would go down there and party when we were underage, I would always go down there and we would pass IDs back. Where you would use an ID, go in, get a drink, and then you go stand on the patio, hand it to somebody. The bouncer doesn't know. He's looking at 1,000 IDs all night.
I don't give a shit. I remember being a doorman. My favorite thing to do was to tell old people they couldn't come in because they didn't have their ID. I'd have these like 50-year-old dudes who'd be like, what? I'm like, I need your ID. And they're like, dude, look at me. And I'm like, I don't care. I have to have an ID.
Yeah,
that's fun.
I would always tell people it's the camera. I just didn't like fucking.
You could be a cop. You're like, dude, I'm not a cop. I was like, that's what cops say.
Yeah, that's exactly what a fucking
dude.
cop would say. In Savannah, the big thing was when you checked the military ID, you always had to go. You can't bring a gun in here. Like they'd be like, what? You're like, go back to your fucking car, dude. I know you got a gun on you. I had a guy that was so drunk one time, and he was like, oh, you're right. And then tried to hand me his gun. I was like, yo, dude, like, I'm a stranger. Like, that's crazy.
What kind of bars do you usually go to?
I will say I didn't have a fake ID, but when I joined the military at 17, so I had like a military ID at 18.
Yeah,
and that just
you show
worked.
that to bars.
They don't even know
where the IDs on the things
it's on the back.
Yeah.
It's on the back and it's in another picture. So like they don't even know. They go, okay.
I don't even know what I'm looking at.
I remember I had just gotten back and I didn't have a gun, but for some reason I had way too many knives on me, and I had
more than one is too many.
And I think I had like 2, maybe 3. I think I had 2.
2 is more than you need.
2? No, you need 2 at least. Well, you need 1 for when someone's like, "Hey, you can't come in here with that knife," and you go, "All right." Yeah. And you need that other one so you have a knife still.
Yeah. No,
but
that's my prop knife. That's my distraction knife.
But I had like 2 knives on me, maybe 3, and I had a pair of brass knuckles. And I remember trying to go into like this club in Atlanta, and they were like, "You don't have any weapons on you, do you?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't think so." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I got a knife in my pocket." And they go, "Well, lift up your shirt." And I was like, "Yeah." So I lifted up my shirt, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about this other knife." And they were like, "Dude," and they're like, "Just search that guy." And then they found like brass knuckles in my pocket. I was like, "Dude, I forgot all those were on me."
You're like, Jesus Christ.
But I had just bought them. That's why I was like buying them to go home with. I usually don't walk around with like 3 knives and a pair of brass knuckles on me.
They had like price tags hanging off of them.
You know, I mean, they might have had a sticker or something.
Brass knuckles would fuck you
Dude,
up.
ruin your day.
Dude,
you mean a belt buckle?
Yeah.
They're sold as paperweights or belt
yeah,
buckles.
paperweights is how I bought mine as a kid.
Yeah.
Dude,
I love that.
I bought mine as a kid, and then in my metals class, we were forging aluminum. So I used my brass knuckles to forge aluminum brass knuckles. So I had 2.
Nice.
Damn, that's cool.
That's that Jewish law right there. They're like, you can't have brass knuckles. I was like, this is a paperweight.
That's what it is.
That's awesome.
I should get some now. I should get a paperweight now. I have a lot of papers on this table. I need to.
Yeah. Get a couple brass knuckles just in case somebody starts acting.
It was
up.
like when we were kids, somebody would go to the flea market and you come back with one of those metal bowls that had the little top, the little screw top, and then brass knuckles and a goddamn Chinese throwing star every time.
Yeah. Butterfly knives were big in my friend group.
Yeah.
I have a lot of scars still on my hands from
I
being a
definitely did
teenager.
some butterfly knives.
Yeah, you felt so cool. It was like the Outsiders. Yeah,
I thought I was gonna get really good. I had like 2 or 3 tricks, and I thought I was like, I'm gonna become one of those like dudes who just.
I was trying, and then I just kept cutting myself because the thing is like doing that. I was like going on YouTube and practicing tricks and like looking stuff up. And
How
then
old were you?
Probably 16.
Okay.
And then
that's prime.
That's prime.
yeah, that's about when this happens, right?
Yeah, butterfly knife age.
I was depending on how many parents, it could be earlier, or if you got 2 parents, 16's a regular age. If you got 1 or none, it's like 12 or 11.
Yeah, you're right. I had both here. So
yeah, I figured. I could tell, dude.
Of course. I was practicing something that I cut myself bad enough, like 3 times in a row, practicing it, where I had to take a break practicing
You're like,
it.
My hands are
between.
Well, they're not practical.
No,
they have practice ones that are like
they
have like a rubber.
But that's lame.
They have like a rubber blade, so you can like work. I never had one, but I knew they existed.
It's like the plastic nunchucks. You're like, nah, dude, I want
it's
the
so
real
crazy.
ones.
Our like search for identity in those early years where you're just like, this is what I am now. You like get like a hat, like when you're like 12 to like 17, and sometimes it like lasts a lot longer, but you'll get like a fedora and like when you're 13, you're like, dude. I'm a fedora guy.
I'm a bowling shirt guy now.
I definitely rocked some bowling shirts.
Oh yeah, listen to ska. You're like, this is me now.
I tried to be punk.
You ever buy a pocket watch at a Kohl's?
I've definitely had a pocket watch where I was like, this is cool, dude. Having a pocket watch is cool.
I did worse than any of that. I was a yo-yo kid.
Dude, I mean, how old though?
Too old.
Too old.
It started running into when I started smoking
Asian
weed, and dudes were like, bro. I'm smoking a bowl, and I'm like walking the dog. People are like, bro, get the fuck out of here. I remember somebody killed me and were like, you're so gay. And I was like, dude, that crushed me. I was doing the like pendulum thing, and my buddy was like, that's so gay. And everybody died. I was like,
but you know what's crazy? What's crazy is that if you're doing life right, you go through those weird moments in the early, and then your friends and society pressures you to not be like that. Yeah. And then when you start hitting like your late 20s, early 30s, you're like, dude, I love yo-yo. Like you'll like go, you'll be like, I don't give a shit what anybody tells me.
Fuck my older brother.
Like,
yo-yoing rules.
You'll have like 40 yo-yos now. You're like, yeah, yo-yo. That's what I like to do. You can eat a dick if you don't like it.
But that's awesome. I'm glad that I wasn't constantly filming myself doing all that embarrassing shit.
That would be
There's not a million videos of me hacky sacking. Like Jesus Christ.
That is, I mean, we really just missed the like phase of everybody's posting just everything they do online during that phase.
I work with people where I see them and they're in that phase and they don't have that like where they can take a step back, and I'm like, babe, that haircut is hideous. Like, you're going to fucking hate that mullet. I know you saw the penguin. You think you can pull it off.
I don't know, dude. I see some people with mullets. I do think
Let me assure you, I'll show you the picture after this girl.
It could be a shitty mullet.
To the point to where my girlfriend came up and was like, what are you looking at? Because she just saw me looking at some girl's pictures. I was like,
oh, the girl mullet?
And she looked at it and went, no. I was like, yeah. Where you going to look at it? You're in the blunder years. You're going to look at that mullet and be like,
do you remember the like emo hair?
Yeah.
Where it was like, it was like the Edward Scissorhands. Like they like chopped it up. Like it was wild. And that's like the crazy thing. I think that's what like marked my like younger years was that a bunch of my friends were in different scenes, but I just like could never. I like tried to get into like the punk stuff and like I love punk music. I love ska music, but I couldn't go full. Like I had friends who were like full bore, the hair, the fucking. And every time I tried to like get into like a scene like that, I just was like, this is silly. I just like couldn't commit to the culture.
You feel silly.
And I just like, I love what you're doing. Keep it up. Yeah. But I just can't.
I feel ridiculous.
I was in the hippie culture a lot, and the hippie festy culture. I don't know if you guys have ever interacted with it, but there's
yes
in the like late
that guy. It's half of his stories.
The late aughts. Those dudes, they had the hat with the pins and the scarf, and it was like. And speaking of yo-yo, a bunch of my friends who were in that scene got obsessed with that like South American like cup ball. Yeah. And they were like, they had like 20, and they were like filming themselves doing tricks. And I'm like, dude, you are 27 years old.
I had a roommate that would do it. It was like a tick. We got in a fight one time. I was like, bro, it's like a nervous tick. You're just constantly doing that thing. Like, I'm going to cut the strings. Like, it's crazy. He was getting them shit from like Japan. And shit.
I have a bunch of friends who were like, and I was just like, I just can never really get into.
I'm glad I've never met
one
of those people.
But you know what is sad is he was good at it. And I was like, this is
I know a lot of dudes who are good at it.
When his friends would come over that were bad at it, where you're just like, dude, what are you doing?
I wasn't good at it.
You know what I never got into? Devil sticks. The little.
I had those. I had those when I was like 12 or 13. I thought those were sick.
Dude,
there was a fork in the road where it was devil sticks or hacky sack. I went hacky sack.
Yeah.
I was like,
flow art. You end up in the flow arts. I have a lot of friends who are in flow art stuff, and I have mad respect for anybody who's willing to like swing fire around themselves like that. But then you had the poi, and I had friends who had the little like rubber ones, and they were like always like,
hey, anything's better than the fucking gloves. Oh, that's embarrassing.
Well, I've met those guys.
I mean,
I will say from the outside, you're like, you walk past like somebody who's just like this, and then somebody's like. But if you've ever been like rolling tits and one of those dudes who's good at it comes up to you, you just like, you're fucking.
What's crazy is they find you. Like
I've seen them. Yeah,
you'll be like,
see somebody.
I'm rolling so hard, and then you turn around and some guy's like, you're like, dude, what?
It is.
And you can't even say no at first because you're just a moth to the lights. As soon as he starts moving his fingers, you're like.
Trent looks like he's like out of the conversation.
I don't.
You're like a metalhead.
Yeah, I grew up listening. I was a metal kid growing up.
I had a bunch of friends who were like that. I think that was what like marked my childhood.
Yeah,
I've said this a lot, because I think there's people who are like plain people, and then there are people who are like intersection people, and like a lot of people who are like neither one's better than the other one, but it's like some people exist on a like a plane of existence, and like those are people who fall into the culture really easily, and like they find identity in there. And then there's people who traverse those planes, and I very much have been like someone who would like hang out with hippies and metalhead and like jocks. Like I played like 3 sports, but I could never really feel like. And then there were my friends who were like that, and then we were like this little group of people who were like not part of any group. So I feel like that's, some people have that dynamic.
Yeah. So the hippie thing, the reason is because I grew up so Christian, and there's like a Christian metal side of that, or there was at that time. So you could get into that. But there was no like,
was that the
Grateful Dead? There was no like Christian Grateful Dead.
That's true.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we could start it. You know what?
There's
Yeah,
fuck
dude.
this podcast,
Hey.
dude. We're the Christian.
Not a
Grateful
bad
Dead.
idea,
Let's
dude.
do it.
Well, that's like the whole South Park bit. Is where they're like, oh, you just rip off some other thing, but you make it Christian.
Dude,
And then
this podcast might pivot hard. I might be repenting my sins and not paying taxes.
podcast.
Honestly, I like the move. Actually, if I'm branding my whole thing as a cult, am I allowed to not pay taxes?
I mean,
I think you
What
have
else
to, you
do
have
I
to go
need to
through
do?
some certain.
I'm going to
whole
figure it
loops.
out. I'm going to figure it out.
If
That's
you're
the
doing
first
like
step to being
if you're
Jewish.
doing a new, if you're doing, they're like, actually, you're
really
not a.
thinking like
This isn't a new religion. You're just Jewish.
yeah, dude. I
Oh,
think
okay.
you like get there, you get tax exempt. They're like, welcome to the religion.
Let me see
Welcome.
your penis. I don't know. There are things you have to do. If you're a new religion, I know it's a lot harder. It's way easier to just be like, we're a Baptist church.
Yeah.
And then, because there's nothing that makes a Baptist church anything like a Baptist church except for saying you're a Baptist church.
Okay,
there's
so it will be a Baptist church.
Yeah, just be a Baptist church.
And you just gotta have certain scripture in your back pocket that you
just
throw out.
hit it with it,
Yeah.
dude. Just hit it with it. You could be a bad Baptist church.
They're like,
you don't
"Hey,
even
man."
have to know that much
Yeah, yeah.
scripture, dude. You're like, we're learning. We're learning. We love the Lord, and we're trying to figure it out as we go.
They're like, I'm starting to think you guys are just eating mushrooms. You're like, yeah, well.
Are you trying to read right now? You're holding the book upside down.
Than me.
I felt like I could have started a cult at this one point in my life. I had
You should have.
yeah, well, I was like in this like hippie scene, and I had just gotten done like hitchhiking, and like I had met up, and we had this like friend group that was very like into the mushrooms, into the like esoteric, and it felt like ripe for the just. And we were all like, we should just like get some farmland and I was like, dude,
I mean,
this could easily go this way.
That's
And I remember making a
basically
conscious
what the
decision
CIA
not to
taught
do that.
Manson to do, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, that's exactly what
That's
they
just
taught him
what
to
they.
do.
That's
And I was
like,
like,
hey.
oh, we
Yeah.
could. All I have to do is have like a
If you
unifying theory
Yeah.
around existence, and then just be like, the way we get better is through this thing,
was
and
through
then
paying
Yeah.
me.
and then we just got to go somewhere to do it, and then all of
You
a
gotta,
sudden
I
you're
was
in
gonna
like
say,
a,
once you isolate people and you start taking heavy psychedelics, like, yeah, that's easy.
people are very suggestible when they're on hallucinogens.
I mean, yeah.
It's strange.
I've
Don't
been
tell the
under that.
government.
No, I've been under that spell though, where like I've been so suggestible of like people around me, where you're just like at a festival or something, you're like, I can't be around that guy. Like that guy's energy's all off.
Dude.
That's why I got spun at Tool. Like the whole time I was at
That
Tool
can't-
at Bonnaroo, I was just like, the vibes are off. Like,
I've been a lot of places you shouldn't be on hallucinogens.
yeah,
I've-
Primus show.
No, I mean more like crack house kind of stuff where you're like oh shit,
Yeah.
and you're like that's what always happened. Not always happened, but I would like take hallucinogens at one house that was cool, and then people would like, you want to go for a ride real quick while I do a thing, and you're like, sure, I'm up for everything because I've been open to the world now because I'm on mushrooms or LSD. You get a car and you drive across town, and then now you're like in the ghetto in like a house that kind of looks like this one, and and they're just dangerous people doing fucking real
Why
drugs,
the
and you're
fuck
like,
is everybody standing around him?
and then you're like trying to like unwrap the spiritual meaning of this existence of like the crack game. You're like, what are these people searching for? And you're like, people are like, dude, are you okay? It's like, no, I'm about to get it. You're like, I'm about to get it. Give me a minute.
I can't believe that the government did this.
You're like, it's a cycle. You're in a
all a
cycle. Your parents put you here.
Yeah. Rick Ross was a Fed. So I feel like we're almost there. So did you bring a story for us?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well,
Okay.
let's do it. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. And this is something I've kind of struggled with, is because I do stand up, and this is a very funny story, but there's no way to really tell it.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to unlock that situation.
Dude, you might have to come out with the
Yeah.
Britney Spears mic and do the one-man
Ooh.
show.
and just be like, because
Yeah.
the crazy part is just the end.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And the end is I got arrested for allegedly smoking meth at the counter of a Waffle House while dressed as a clown. You know?
Yeah.
That's the story.
It's,
Okay, so
and by the way, I did hear you do a short version of this closing out a mic a few weeks ago. It's when I found this out. I had not heard this story, but you like open it, you're like, it's on the news. Look it up.
Yeah. So that was the crazy thing.
It went viral.
Yeah, so
which
like
is crazy.
I remember I was in jail because I got arrested for smoking. So here, I always say that I feel like I could smoke meth at a Waffle House. Like I felt like that was on the menu. You know what I mean? I was like,
you're not wrong. You can't be the first person.
Smothered, covered, and cranked. That's how I like my hash browns.
Smothered, covered, and shake.
I say that they called the cops because I had better meth than they did, and they were jealous about it.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know if I smoked anything at the counter. I will say. So,
okay, so set it up. What was the night
so
like? Why were you dressed like a clown?
Yeah.
First
and that's why I say this is the end of the story, because the story is a very long road, and so it begins.
Yeah, let's, all right.
It begins. I was like a very like traditional, conservative, like Christian kid. Moved to Georgia, 14. A lot of crazy stuff happened in my life. My dad like ran out, and then I started like hanging out with like alternative, edgy, like drug, weed kids. And so I had this weird half and half where I was like still like in the Young Republicans Club, but I was also like driving to Atlanta and like getting ecstasy and like selling it. And so like I was like selling ecstasy, but then I'm also like, we need to back the blue, baby.
These crimes are way too easy.
And I had always wanted to be like a soldier. So like I enlisted in the Army and went off to Afghanistan, came back all fucked up. And the most reasonable thing I felt to do was to get rid of everything I owned except for what I could carry and just like walk across the country.
Gump it.
Yeah, I was like, this makes way more sense. And like looking back after all the PTSD was
we all go
unraveled,
gump in our own way afterward.
Yeah.
I went the look. You,
but I think that just resonated. Where it's like I came home and was like, all right, I'm going to go to school, and I have this like fiance, and I have to be like an adult, and I'm like trying to do like bills and school and the house, and I was just like, that none of that makes any sense. You know, it does make sense having a rucksack on and just walking and sleeping wherever I get tired, because that was just like what my adulthood had been like in Afghanistan. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to do that now. And so I started walking and doing all that, and I was hanging out doing hippie stuff, and I ended up becoming like a street performing clown. You know,
fun.
As one would do.
Yeah, fun. That's fun.
So, what you had a whole act?
Yeah, well, no.
It was mostly smoking crack near people.
I had a bunch of gags, as we call it in the biz. The crazy thing about being a clown is when you tell people you're a clown and then somebody else is a clown, they go, "Oh, where did you study?" And I'm like, "The streets, bitch." Like, what are you? It's like, what school? I don't fucking. Because there is this like weird.
You should start your own clown school, honestly.
Dude, I mean, I don't know if I'm like learned enough.
Where did you study? Shut the fuck up,
but
dude.
there is this like, what's the word I'm looking? Bouginess to like clowning, and there are schools. You know, people go to like I took a class from this guy not too long ago, a few months ago, that he went to like France and like studied in like a world renowned clown school. You know. And he's like, where did you learn? And I was like, between like 5th and 6th Street, my boy. You know it. But I'm hitchhiking. It's hard to come up with like financial stuff. I can't have a job. I don't beg. I don't like to beg. The only money I have is money I find, and then money people are just like, hey, here's $20. I never asked for money.
Yeah.
And so I was in Asheville, and I saw a guy who was like a juggler, and he would street perform, and he was phenomenal. Could juggle all kinds of shit. He had like 40 things laid out, and for $1 you could pick 3, and he would juggle any 3 items. And it was like a baseball glove, like a basketball. He'll juggle $1. And yeah,
That's
he was
pretty
he
fucking good.
had like machetes and stuff like that, and he was phenomenal. And I was like, so I put that in my back pocket, and then kept hitchhiking, and I ended up out west. And I was like, well, you know what? My friend, I convinced to start like. He was like what we call a rubber tramp. So leather tramp is someone who hitchhikes. A rubber tramp is someone who lives in their car, van life, as we call it now. And he was getting tired of people trying to break into his van. And I was like, come to Colorado. It's way chiller vibe. And he gets up there and he like street performed as like a musician. And so he would try to busk playing instruments, and I could juggle. And so I would just juggle whatever was around. I learned how to juggle when I was like 14, and I wasn't very good. And so what happened was I would get clothes from like homeless shelters and like make my own like weird. I considered myself a homeless superhero and created these like weird clothes, and then I would street perform, and I was bad, so I would always play off being bad as like a gimmick.
Part of the act.
And so then I started to piece.
Were you doing drugs at this point?
Actually, very little.
Okay.
Which was crazy.
I just thought I'd ask.
Because I've done so much drugs.
You see a clown on the street, you're
But
like, that guy's
there
on
is like
drugs.
hobo clowns. That's like
There are hobo
there's
clowns.
hobo clowns. There's like sad clowns. I learned a little bit
White
about being a clown
clowns.
because
Yeah.
I did it for like a church. I did it for
Yeah.
their vacation Bible school. For like every year I
Hell
would
yeah,
do
dude.
clown shit.
I've been to a lot of vacation Bible schools.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in the South. But I
Hey.
so I
Shout
kind
out
of like
First Baptist.
became a clown without even like it wasn't like a goal or
Like
anything.
yeah.
I just started making my own outfits because I thought they were cool, and I was this hitchhiking weird kid. And then I started like juggling and performing with his buddy.
Are you
of
wearing
mine.
makeup?
No makeup, but
Okay.
if you haven't noticed, I have like very clown-like features. So it's like it's just
You just do a little bit with the hair.
I
Yeah.
eventually started doing makeup, but like for this time of my life,
Okay,
it was
so
just the weird
I'm just trying to paint a
outfits.
picture in my
Yeah,
mind.
yeah.
Okay, so you're juggling.
And what's a funny side story is that the bus he was living in like broke down, and we were like pushing it around Boulder to like get. It was like 3 hippies, 2 dogs living in this van, and we would be like, we're gonna go hang out at this one spot, and we would just push it through Boulder, and people would help us, and then they would ride on the back on like downhills, and then people would be like, hey, this is my stop, and we'd be like, cool, appreciate it, brother, and they would jump off,
dude.
and we were like this like weird commuter like hippie bus.
God. Boulder might be the crunchiest place. On
It is.
earth.
I think
that's
100%
dude.
is.
That's crazy. That's only happening at like Boulder or like Asheville, man.
And it's those places were weird because it was like we would meet like responsible grown-ups, and they would view us as like, yeah, this is a reasonable thing you're doing. You know what I mean? I remember
They wouldn't look at you like an insane person.
no, and it's like
They're like, yeah, you got to push it. That's how you get there.
when we were in
Duh.
Yeah, you should get that tie. It makes you look more like a clown.
Moab is a similar vibe, and we were in Moab, and we met like a city councilman, and he like invited us to like a party where there's like all these fancy people, and it's just these 3 street kids and 2 dogs, and we're just like eating hors d'oeuvres at this like very ritzy, and they're like, so tell us about your journey, and I was like, damn, dude, the crunch is strong up here.
Yeah.
At what point did you think that those rich people were going to murder you?
I didn't
You
really
could juggle your way
Because
out
that
of
feels
dude.
like because that feels like if nobody around you or is like you, I feel like that's like, okay, these rich people are
They're
gonna bring
hunt me
they're gonna
now?
bring me to
It's
the
like one of
basement.
those things where,
Yeah.
like, did you bring your street person? And it's like, I did. They're like, all right, you guys fight for the only weapon, and then we'll hunt the survivor.
Yeah, everybody just suddenly has different masks on. You're like,
ooh. But we actually traded the van for a tattoo gun that we couldn't get to work, which is really fun.
dude. What the?
All right. So anyway, I ended up coming back. And so now I have this whole like and I also like was really into like close-up magic as a kid. And so I could do like cards and coins and scarves. And so now I have this like weird thing that I enjoy doing. And I moved back, and then there's like this whole other aspect of my life unfolds. But I meet a girl and I move to Athens. In that whole process, I start like selling drugs. And so I'm working in restaurants like we discussed previously, and I'm selling like decent amount of like mushrooms, LSD, marijuana, and then like Molly and stuff. Mm-hmm. And a buddy comes over and he's like, "Can I get some acid for tonight?" And I said, "Yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that." And he goes, "Do you want to come out?" And I said, "Let me get dressed." And so then I put all the clown stuff on because I was like, you know what? Let's go. I was like, let's go, dude. Because I would go out.
I might as well scare my friends.
I would street perform. I didn't really have friends in Athens. I'd only lived there for like a few months.
Hey, so man, we're going to take some acid. Do you want to come out? Yeah, let me get ready.
I was like, let me throw something on, dude.
You just hear your fucking clown shoes coming down the hallway.
And so, my clown suits were wild. I had like a weird clown outfit that I had like made.
Can we find a picture of it online, you think?
No, I mean, I think I have a picture of it. I have a picture of it. Yeah, I have a picture of it. But it's like, I also like started building this like avant-garde, like fucked up clown where it was like, I had like a regular clown where it was like straight skill and I was silent. And the makeup looked a lot more normal and stuff like that. But then I would also do this like weird edgy clown where the whole bit was me being like bad at being a clown and kind of making people feel uncomfortable. And like, I was like sort of scary. I also, by this point, I was very good at juggling. And so I would juggle like hatchets and machetes and I could like set them on fire. So that was, anyway.
That's fun.
So my friend's like, let's hit the town. And I was like, I'll go street perform.
Fun friend to eat acid with.
Oh, dude,
I mean, wow.
Dude, and you should have seen like my house at the time was just like toys and like trippy stuff. Yeah. Like me and this girl, we lived in this carriage house that was like in downtown Athens.
Oh, that
and rules. Inside was just like psychedelic lights, decorations. We had all the weird trippy toys you would want to have, and so if you like came over to our house, we would just do drugs and snuggle and like have a good time.
Yeah,
and so I was like, I'm gonna go street perform, party in Athens, sell drugs on the side if I can. Mm-hmm. So I loaded up, and I was going around the bars, and I at some point kind of blacked out. But people told me later on, people I did not know were like, I ran into this person. I was doing like magic tricks and like juggling at the bar.
You were being fun.
I was being fun. There was like one moment that we can get back to later, but just remind me, put a pin in it. Not fun. Just remind me not fun, and we'll get back to it towards the end. And at the end of the night, it's like 2 a.m.
Are you better at juggling on acid? I
have no idea. I just I couldn't tell you, to be honest.
Apparently,
I couldn't tell you. Nothing bad ever happened,
fucking
so I
awesome.
assumed that's fine.
That's fucking rad.
So I'm having fun. I'm selling drugs. I'm hanging out with people. I'm finding folks' cards, and I'm walking down the street, and it's fun. I always think it's fun because it was February 29th. So it was like a magical time of year. February 29th. Now it's 2 a.m., March 1st. And I'm walking down the street, and I walk past Waffle House. And I did it. I remember in my head, it was like comical. This is the Athens, Georgia downtown Waffle House. I'm walking past like this, and I walk past, and I stop. And then I slowly reverse and then turn and go, all right. And so I had to look insane to the people inside.
Was like the makeup fucked up by this point, or was it still like fresh?
You don't
know.
No makeup.
No makeup.
No makeup on this one. I have done makeup, but this one was no makeup.
Okay, I thought you were in makeup.
No, but I had full.
You were in the
I
suit.
had a jester hat. I had full suit. I had a clown suit with like rainbow stuff. Like I had the shoes. Like it was very. But again, I'm clown looking, so sometimes I would just do just like a small red nose paint, and then that was it. But anyway, walk by, I go in, and I remember going up, ordering 2 bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches, hash brown plain, eating it, paying, and then I woke up in the bathroom. So I had like teleported into, and what I guess I had like nodded off, because I remember I must have nodded off and then hit my head on like the wall at the urinal and was like, God damn. And then it was like, I guess I'm in the bathroom, and I zip up and I open the door, and there's 6 cops just waiting at the door. And they each, like, I get 1 on each hip, 1 behind me, and they just pick me up and kind of just like I didn't even walk out. And so I'm just gliding to the door like I'm in like a Prince video or something. Like there's smoke on the ground, and I'm just sliding across. I get to my stuff, and they go, sir, is this your stuff? And it's like a bag, my backpack with all my shit in it, which I know is filled with drugs. And I go, I've never seen that stuff in my entire life. I was like, I don't know whose stuff that is. It's not mine. But the problem is, there's like a little clown version of myself that I would like use, like a puppet that I would use, and it's like sitting with the stuff. You know what I mean? Like basically,
so
like
is that
like
a puppet of yourself?
I was like, that's got to be some other clown stuff I've never seen.
That's actually creepy.
I was like, it's just literally a clown.
Actually, I hope you find that guy. That guy's a menace. He
yeah,
must be
dude, that looks
stalking
terrifying. And so they grab it, and I guess I don't know what happened. I don't know if I smoked. I wanted to get the security camera, but I ended up not. I got charged with 4 counts of felony intent to distribute, or no, 3 counts of felony intent to distribute Schedule I narcotics, and then 1 count of felony paraphernalia, which was the scale. But I had like jars of mushrooms, jars of weed, like a sheet of acid, and like a bag of Molly. And I was out on bail for another felony possession charge at that time. So I was like, I'm going down the road, which is fun. But
And still on acid at this point.
yeah, but I was very quickly sobering up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But okay, so here's the thing. No, if you notice in that list of drugs, no meth was ever mentioned.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? And I think they just assumed it was meth because that's like where a Waffle House employee's brain is. They're like, as soon as I get off, I'm going to smoke meth. And so that's just like their vibe. But I had a bowl of weed that I'd been smoking out of like throughout the entire night. The problem is I also smoked a lot of DMT out of it. So I think if I hit anything, I hit this bowl at the counter, and it's gonna smell like DMT.
Okay,
so if you've ever smelled DMT,
oh yeah,
it is a very chemically. It is not a weed smell.
Hold on. So you were just puffing DMT throughout the night?
No, I just did. I had
previously.
the day before I had been smoking a lot of
So
DMT, and it was just like built up in the bowl.
Is this after you ate? Did you eat first?
Yeah, I ate. So I was on a full stomach when I went to jail.
That's good. At least.
So from their perspective, a clown walks by with a backpack, doubles back slowly,
goes in
cartoon
style the entire time. Quietly sits at the bar, eats his food, starts smoking a bowl, and then has to go to the bathroom.
They're probably like, no fucking way.
I'm not talking to anybody. You know what I mean? So like, I basically look like I'm in my own world.
The person cooking probably thought you were just like a figment of his imagination.
Dude, baby. They were like,
there ain't no fucking way.
Are you seeing this, dude? Are you seeing
I called 911 just to see if I was seeing it.
Dude, he might have.
911, I'm losing my fucking mind. There's a clown smoking DMT at the bar.
But if you know anything about Athens, like the cops don't have anything to do there.
No.
So like 30 cops showed up, like on bicycles, and I remember they were like making fun of me when I was in the cop car. They like were pulling out the drugs, and they were like waving it at me and like laughing. I was like, "This is great."
Overkill.
The fun
for
thing,
Clark County, fucking dicks.
The fun thing about being booked as a clown, though, is when they start going through your pockets. You know, and they're like pulling out like slinkies and kazoos. They grab that one scarf that just like keeps going. You know
awesome.
what I mean?
It's like the scene from The Mask.
But
yeah, arresting a magician.
it's 100% the scene from The Mask.
That's awesome.
That's 100%. I had toys, juggling stuff, but then also like hatchets and machetes.
That makes me feel bad for Las Vegas police officers because they
they
got to
do that stuff all the time.
They deal with that. Do you have anything that's gonna poke or hurt me, stick me?
He's like, you have no
embarrass
idea what's
me?
in these pockets, dude.
And then they follow it. Are you a magician? Because we need to know that.
But I
reach in their pocket, your hand comes out, they're flying. You're like, what the fuck?
I don't know what's worse. I don't know what's worse is being booked as a clown or getting out. Because when you get out, they just give you back the clothes you got. So, like, I had to just put clown clothes. They're like, all right, buddy, your court date is such and such. Here's your stuff. And they have to, like, they have a sheet of everything. And then they have to just give it. They're like one kazoo. And they're just, like, going down as I'm, like, I'm, like, going, like, one suspender up at a time. And they're like, we've got a bag of marbles, a hatchet, another
slinky,
hatchet,
a bowling pin,
15 tied together scarves.
Well, that's why I'm wearing my Killer Clowns from Outer Space shirt.
Yeah.
But yeah, so while I'm in jail, I get my phone call and I call my girlfriend at the time. God bless her, because it really went. This is not something she signed up for.
Yeah.
But in my defense, I guess. What did you think? You know what I mean? The like
live with me. You
the vet hitchhiking clown drug dealer. What was the end of the road?
The wandering
happily
clown.
Ever after. You know what I mean?
I can fix him.
But no, she's amazing. She's awesome. Actually, my wife knows her and thinks she's the best and wants to be friends with her. She's like, nice. I just wish your ex and I were best friends. I was like, I'm glad you're not.
Yeah. I don't need that.
But anyway, I call her and she says, Jacob, it's in the news. And I was like, I didn't think much of it. Okay. Okay. Because this is not the first time I've been in the news for crime. I have a checkered past, and I've made a couple local front page newspapers for some silliness. And so I just assumed that's what it was. And then I get out of jail, and it is, my mom is like, reporters are calling her. People are calling, like, people I used to work with. Like, my friends are like, they had to, scenario. My Facebook was private, but they got all this stuff off my Facebook. So they had to have, like, gotten, like, a friend of mine to, like, give up Facebook stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Because they had, like, pulled, like, yeah. So it was in the Daily Beast, UK Daily Mail. It was like the Washington Times. It was just like, there was like an Afghan newspaper.
I mean, that is a great fucking headline.
Dude, they were reading about it in Afghanistan.
Yeah, they posted, there was like an Afghan like Tribune or something like that. I remember there's a website that I used to.
Dude, I didn't know that clowns were cross-cultural like that.
Dude, clowns are every culture's got a clown, dude. Every culture's got a clown. And if they didn't survive. But it was just in everything. I remember have you ever gone to the website Smoking Gun? The smokinggun.com. It was a website I used to look at when I was like a kid. And it was just funny crime stories, like criminals being dumb and stuff like that. And I ended up on this website that I used to frequent.
Full circle.
And I would see people posting these comments, you know, and they would be like, this buffoon.
Yeah.
And I started like chatting back. And I was like, you guys don't really.
Him?
I was like, you guys don't really know what this guy could be going through. I was like, you gotta really think that he's like hurting right now. You know? I was like, I wasn't being like a dickhead, but I was just trying to like make a case for myself.
Yeah.
Don't be too hard on this guy,
dude. I was trending
this
on.
Story
I think it was DMT, not meth. I don't know though. It's just what I heard.
This story is basically whatever that last Guillermo del Toro movie about the circus is.
No, I haven't seen it. I gotta watch it.
It's basically your story, but instead of a website that you used to frequent, it circles from circus to being like the freak of the circus.
Oh, yeah. I know what movie you're talking about. That's the
Yeah.
one with Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
That thing, for some reason, that movie
basically-
very viscerally touched me.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, not to toot Bradley Cooper's own and Del Toro's horn. Those Academy Award winning directors and actors.
Yeah, it's been.
No, I'm just saying your story's basically exactly that from
That
the
arc
perspective
of
of
it,
that
yeah.
website.
But I was trending on Facebook. I remember like at this time you could see what was trending and it would show you like what the traffic was like. And I remember the traffic was like 75,000 people had like interacted with my name. And people were messaging people were messaging my Facebook and being like, "Yo, brother, kick ass." And like people would be like, "Hey, man." And people would be like, "If you're ever in Tennessee, I'll give you a tattoo. Like, rock on. Like, people don't let it get you down, you know?"
Yeah.
And then some people would comment. They were like, "Dude, this is like a Hunter S. Thompson situation." And I was like, "I love that. I love that compliment. That comparison."
Fear and Loathing in Waffle House.
He did blow his brains out though, so it's
Yeah.
not like good. At the time, I was like, "That's good company," and then later on, I was like, "Actually, that's a really sad man."
Yeah, he was pretty
Like,
miserable
yeah,
at the end. Everybody kind of hated him. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was kind of hard to be around.
But yeah, that was the situation. That was my
Damn,
life.
it
And
going viral would be a bad
And
feeling.
I forget. So I've come like a long way, and I forget so much of like what that even happened a lot. Of the
Yeah,
time.
it feels like another life.
Yeah, and like what I forget that it even happened, and then when people remind me of it, it's just like a headline to me. And then when I start remembering the like true experience of just like crying in my bed, just you know what I mean, just being like, "Oh, my life's fucking over." Like I had like been arrested a bunch.
It's
so
hard
I
to
thought
see
I was
past
going down
that.
the wrong. Like I thought I was going down the, and then like you're this international buffoon kind of stuff. So when I see people who go through that, when I see people getting crushed on the internet, I have this like, hey, you don't really know.
Yeah.
I always just like that's a real person who made like either a bad decision or they're just getting like. This is getting turned in like a bad light.
Mm-hmm.
I thought like the Shane Gillis stuff when Shane Gillis went on the Joe Rogan podcast the first time.
Yeah.
And people were like, "It's worked out for you." He's like, "Yeah, but it was like 2 years. It's just a nightmare."
Well,
you
the
know?
story of him on the subway and his phone kept going out when he'd go under the tunnels and like finding out that he's and being like, "Oh my God," and then losing service and being like, "What the fuck?" And then it comes
Just
back
getting
and you're
worse
like, "Oh,
and worse
Jesus."
and worse.
People on the train are like,
Dude,
"Damn, dude.
That's tough.
Not great."
But
yeah.
but that's what I'm saying. When I see stories like that, I'm always like, "Hey, we don't really know what the life was that led up to this one incident. Sometimes can even just be like a couple minutes, and then now all of a sudden this person is just getting like crushed. On the internet." I will say one of my claims to fame is Joe Rogan tweeted about me. So he tweeted the article with my, so it says, so I have a picture on my phone somewhere. I can't find it, but it's in there. And it's Joe Rogan's Twitter. It says Joe Rogan. And then he's just posted the article and it's just my face.
Oh, God damn it.
Which is fun.
You're like, dude, don't do that. Invite me on the show. Don't fucking.
I did message him at the time and was like, "Let me get my side of the story." But I didn't know about the tweet till like 2 years ago. My wife was like, "Is it?" Yeah, she was like, we were talking about it, and she was like, "Yeah, that story's crazy. It's crazy that Joe Rogan tweeted about you." And I said, "Wait, what?"
Huh?
I said, "Back up."
Like, we could have fucking parlayed this. You gotta tell me shit like that.
Dude, he should have had me on before I got sober, dude. We would have had a good time. Now we're just gonna drink coffee and smoke cigars, you know.
Yeah.
But
So you're completely sober now?
I'm sober. I've been sober for 9 years.
Nice.
I'm in an unknown anonymous situation that has helped me.
Okay.
Will remain nameless.
Hell yeah.
At what point do you stop counting? Because I haven't drank for like over 300 days, and I was wondering that. I'm like, wait, if I get to a year,
Me, I
just
stopped
saying, like,
counting pretty early because for me, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna die if I don't get sober."
Yeah.
And so I went into this unnamed anonymous program and worked a certain number of steps. Could be 1, could be 12.
Who knows?
But a lot of people in those programs, they're like hard line. Like, I got 30 days. I got 162 days and 6 hours and 46. They got apps for it now, keeping track of all that stuff. But for me, it was so like I'm a drug addict. You know what I mean? It boils down to like I'm an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict. I like to get fucked up, make terrible decisions, and ruin my life. And no matter how bad it gets, I just want to do it again. And for me, getting sober was like I'm just trying to survive. Yeah. And so I very quickly lost track of whether I had this or that or whatever. But then as I got more time, my sponsor in this unknown anonymous program said that the picking up the years is about the newcomer. It's about showing a newcomer that
okay, that it is
possible.
Because that did make me feel better when you said 9 years. I was like, fuck, I can do that.
So when like you see, you know, and picking up 30 days is big for someone who's got like 3 hours. You know, so every step of the way you pick up these chips that may or may not have 2 letters on it. You pick up 30 days, 6 months, 9 years. You know, I see people who pick up 25, and I'm like, you can do 25. So like I started counting again, but only by years. You know, I'm not like I got 9 years.
Yeah, see, I did
months,
an app,
like 3 days.
and it was hitting me with the days. I was like, this is making it feel a lot longer.
So are you on the team? Are you on the team?
No,
you're just taking a sabbatical.
I smoke and
I saw you smoke weed before this. Right on, dude.
But I just quit the booze because right before the kids were born, I didn't want to not be able to drive. And my girlfriend was like, "Hey, if I go into labor and you're fucking drunk on the couch, I am gonna flip."
That's reasonable.
Yeah, I was like, dude, my cousin did that. Came home from a Falcons game, like tailgating all day, playoff game. Came home,
baby was ready.
Yeah, wife was like, "Yo, I'm going into labor." He's like, should we get a ride? She was like, what? He's like, no, I got it.
Dude, that's insane. Dude, yeah. That's a terrible nightmare.
Starting your fatherhood is DUIing. You're like, I'm starting this thing DUIing my family.
You get pulled over. That's a nightmare.
Hold up, though. Before we drop the ball, no fun.
Oh, not fun. Not fun. Yeah.
Not fun.
So... Again, I'm a drug addict. When I'm more, my hat's off to you. You smoke weed and not drink. That's great. As soon as I start thinking about smoking weed, my brain's like, we should start selling cocaine again. And like, so I'm like, oh yeah, you're fucking. My brain is like, because for me, I can't afford how much drugs I like to do. And the only way I can is by selling them.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're in those situations, like you like, I just don't have control of myself. And again, I am like a combat, like war veteran with issues. And apparently this was told to me later on. I was at church, the church in Athens, not church here, but the church bar. And I was a clown or whatever. And I guess I was drinking. And there was this guy across the bar, and this is how it was explained to me. I don't remember this. There's a guy who was across the bar who was like looking at the clown, which is his right to do. You know what I mean?
I mean, as you do, you're like, is that a goddamn clown over there?
But apparently, I looked back pretty hard and kept a stare and kind of just got up and walked across and like opened the knife and just stabbed it on the table without breaking eye contact with this person. And then he left and just went home.
Bro, imagine this guy is terrified of clowns. And you don't have your makeup on, so he's like, maybe I'm just tripping. This guy's not a clown. I'm making everybody out to be a clown. And then as he's like, is he looking at me? He looks over and you're just...
I'm just my God. I get up, apparently, without breaking eye contact. I walk over to him. I just pull out a knife and just stab it in the table. And I'm like... this far from this guy.
Oh, dude.
And he got up and he went home. He was like, I don't. He goes, I don't. I'm done for the night.
I'm not ready to battle a clown.
That guy quit drinking that night, probably.
He did not. He did not. We're actually friends now. So we're actually friends now because
I did not. He actually went the other way. He started drinking more.
Yeah.
So me and that ex, we ended up like kind of briefly breaking up after this whole event, but then getting back together for a couple months. And we were at like a party and this guy started telling that story, not knowing I'm the clown. You know, he was like, someone brought up because it was the talk of the town in Athens. Like, you know what I mean? It was kind of hard to walk around in the beginning. Because it was on the front page of like in huge, and then there was like it was in the Red and Black, which is like the university newspaper, and then it was in the front page of the Athens newspaper, and then there were like follow up where I kind of messaged the guy who wrote the Athens one and was like, hey man, I hate that I was painted in this light. And so he did like an interview and did like a follow up about who I was and where I came from. And it was all about like my struggle with like PTSD and like homelessness. And
so not fun part.
No, not fun. And so, but the thing was, he shared this story, and then my ex overheard and was like, oh yeah, that's this guy right here. And I was like, man, I'm so sorry that I did that. So, but now he like actually lives like right next to Social Space. We saw each other the other day.
No shit.
Yeah.
Is he gonna start coming?
He comes. I've seen him in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if he does stand. I don't think he does stand up, but he's come and hung out.
But we need those audience members.
We really do. Actually, we really don't. We only need him at the end because
yeah,
we pack it
we
out.
We need him at the end.
We pack it out. Just stay for the 3.5 hour open mic comedy show. Bradley's like, everybody starts leaving around hour 2, and you're like, yeah, that's a reasonable time to leave an open mic.
Yeah, I can't believe they stayed this long. I think that too sometimes when you're like 2 hours into an open mic, you get up, you're like, what are you doing? What do you got going on?
I know why I'm here.
Do you sober juggle?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just juggling something you like.
Yeah. I didn't know if it would be clowned. I've sobered clown since then.
No.
And like street performed in it. And I
think that's how most people clown.
Yeah, most people sober
are sober clowning.
I don't believe that. I assume that all clowns are like Shakes the Clown.
No. Dude, I mean, I'm sure a lot of clowns are like, it's just a couple for me to get through the show, and they just like bop bop, and they're like, hey kids, like, because it does take a certain type of person to be in that mood.
I like the balloon animals. That's all I want.
I can do balloon animals.
That's it. That's how. Once I learned that, I was like, I'll just do the dog all day. You know,
well, the dog is kind of several animals.
It is giraffe, a lot. You could be a zebra,
poodle, wiener dog.
Paint a little stripes on it. I would hit people with that one.
The thing I'm the most proud of is kangaroo or T-Rex. Whoa. Kangaroo and T-Rex. Little hint. The exact same balloon animal. It's really just perspective.
It's how you show it to them.
You just go, hey, this is a kangaroo.
Yeah, it's the accent I use when I tell you what it is.
Yeah.
It's a kangaroo.
That's exactly. But yeah, no, I sober. I've done stand up. I have like a clown act in stand up comedy.
Really?
I have pictures for that I can show you.
Yeah,
guys.
definitely. We'll get with it. You'll send it to me. We'll put some pictures up in this episode. I didn't know if it was like, if your wife came home and like you were just in the driveway juggling, she'd be like, "Oh my god, he fully relapsed."
I'm not telling her about this podcast. She's not gonna know about this podcast. Okay. She hates clown stuff. She fucking does not like it.
She's scared of it, or
yeah, she doesn't. It viscerally causes like hate. No. Not scared. She's like, I hate this. She says, I love my wife so much, but she
hates it.
What's the thing?
Because
she says she doesn't like someone trying to make her feel some type of way. So she's like. So she's like clowns, like she's like they invade her. She's like she says they invade your space, and they're like, "Oh, let's be silly, let's be goofy, be happy, have fun." And then she's like, don't tell me, like, you know what I mean? Like she just doesn't want someone coming up to her and being like, "This is the mood you should be in with me." And so she hates that, and she doesn't like. She's like, "Why would a grown man like do this?" What's really funny is, I was doing stand up. I was doing stand up as a comedian, or doing stand up as a clown. And she, I'm getting dressed to go do the stand up, and we get in this huge fight about it. And she's like, "Why can't you just be a comedian? Why do you have to like be a clown too?" And I was like, "Well, this is expression. This is what I like. It's fun for me. I enjoy this. I know you don't like it."
Are you in makeup while y'all are arguing?
I'm in full. So we're like in the kitchen, and I'm in like half clown clothes, like a white beater, and I'm like trying to explain to her. And she took a picture of me while I'm like, because she just goes. And so I have this picture on my phone of us in an argument, and I'm just like,
Oh, that
in
would
like
piss
full
me off.
clown clothes. It didn't piss me. I don't care. That's
I wouldn't
fine.
like that. I'd be like, what are you doing?
If she took that picture and showed it, like if I was in that argument in your shoes and she took that picture and showed it to me, that would be checkmate. That would I'd be like, oh,
you beat me.
I
Yeah, I'm
lost.
done talking.
You're like,
I'm
yeah.
an idiot. I've gotten in an argument naked before. That's a tough. That's a
Dude.
tough. You're like,
Yeah.
hey, eyes up here. What are you doing? Don't look at my soft wiener while we're arguing.
Dude, if I had been half naked in clown makeup, then I just would have
Dude,
killed
that's
myself.
too
Dude.
much.
I would have just been like, you know what, you're right. You should marry somebody else.
I'm gonna fucking. That's funny as shit though. To get in an argument in clown makeup is
Yeah.
fucking great.
Anything in clown makeup is funny unless you're doing something terrible, you know?
Which is
Like, you're
arguably
like-
even still funny.
Yeah. Whenever you storm out, you should always say, "I'm going to Waffle House."
I just storm out. I remember going back afterwards and being like, return to the scene of the crime. I took a picture of myself at the Waffle House and was like, I'd gotten a haircut. Because we had what in my
They
family.
didn't recognize you.
Well, I wasn't in clown clothes, you know? I'm a pretty inconspicuous guy. But
It's like Superman.
yeah, I'm clown Clark Kent. But this is the thing is like, my family I don't want to spill anybody's, but I know I have a history of crime, and in my family we have what I like to call the Worthington playbook. And when someone ends up getting like arrested, it's like, all right, here's what we got to do. You got to get a haircut. We're going to get a suit. You're going to like apply to school. They're going to say, you know, you messed up, but you're trying to turn it around. My mom shows up and she does the whole, he's
Here's
just
our
a good
lawyer's
kid.
number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and so we just do like the Worthington playbook. So like I had like pretty quickly had like a haircut, and we were trying to shape my image, doing damage control.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
You have to. And, you know, I feel like, you know, I remember I was in court, and at this time I had decided to get sober, and I was like, I'm really going to do it, and I'm just going to go to court and just say, hey, I did everything. What do you want to do? Take full responsibility. Whatever they want to do, whatever they want to give me, if I got to go to prison, that's what it is. And I'm just going to fall on the mercy of the court. And I remember getting there, and my judge and the prosecutor were both veterans. So they were like, this is just a good boy, got mixed up in some things. The prosecutor, who was like this Asian guy, was the former like president of the Brotherhood of Magicians like chapter in Atlanta.
Whoa, dude.
And so he was like, hey man, you should get into magician stuff. And he was like trying to like sway me from the clown team. So this is like before he's like, yeah, so you do like magic and stuff? And I was like, yeah, I do magic and sleight of hand. He goes, you should look into, I was like the former, you know, president of magic in Atlanta. And he was like, you should really look into it. He's like, hold on one second. It's like, yeah, Your Honor. So this guy's pretty sick. So I think we're going to go easy on it.
By the way, what do you gotta do to lose your job as the president?
I
of
think he
like,
moved to Athens. I don't know if he had to. I don't think he was disgracefully.
Nah,
like,
I feel like that sounds like disgraceful.
he had to step
removal.
down.
Yeah. He had to hand in his resignation.
he was like doing like Wiccan rituals, and they're like, "This isn't the kind of magic we want."
We found an
here."
Aleister Crowley book on him.
tarot cards. He was like, "I swear, I was just working
You're like,
sleight of hand with it."
Your Honor, this dude is juggling a gavel. Pretty sick.
It's like, but I ended up getting like relatively light sentence because I was like looking at like years in prison. I've been arrested for possession several times and some burglary stuff, and like got a DUI in my past. And so I was looking at some pretty serious stuff, and I ended up getting just 5 years felony probation and then some like light fine community service stuff. And I remember they were reading out my crimes, you know, and like describing the situation, and then they read out my sentence, and there was like a young black man in the back goes, "What now?" He's like, "Come again." Like I'm sure he got the book thrown at him, but they were like,
Crazy.
you know, that's Athens, dude. I'm sure there was some racial. The judge was white, the prosecutor was Asian. I think they looked at me and was like, "This guy's just got mixed up in some stuff."
Yeah, the veteran thing helps.
The veteran thing has saved my ass. So
And I mean,
many
what are the
times.
odds that the guy was in the Magic Guild?
Dude,
you know?
I mean, he tried to sway me to their team.
The president, the disgraced
former
president of the
disgraced
Magic.
president of Magic. So,
I think we did it. You got anything to plug?
Yeah, I have 2 podcasts. One podcast, one show. I have a podcast with my wife called Rotisserie Chicken Pod on Spotify, Apple Play, and iHeartRadio. And we're on episode 30, so we're plugging along, and we just teach each other topics each week. We switch, and we pick. Last week, my wife did MK Ultra.
Nice.
I've done topics like the most decorated war animals. So stories about dogs and horses that had ranks.
We've done a much darker version of this.
I was going to say we did this, but it was Freaky Friday where we just tell each other the most horrific thing. We teach each other horrible things.
Ours is very you
should teach your wife about the Anthill Kids.
Oh, I know about the Anthill Kids, but ours is PG-13-esque.
Okay.
So we're allotted one fuck an episode because my mom says she feels like it would turn a certain audience member off. The other show I have is a YouTube show called Sweet Boys Cooking. We just released the 2nd episode, and it is fucking chaos. It is me, it is me, Perry Benton, and Dominic Curry, and we do improv sketch scenarios. And it flows in and out of different stuff, and there's costumes and bits, and it is a wild ride.
Okay, that sounds fun.
So y'all should check it out.
Yeah, man, definitely. You got anything to promote? What you got going on? Speaking of MK Ultra, did you see the Katy Perry thing when she went to space?
Yeah.
Fuck out of here, dude. She covered her eye with the fucking butterfly.
Dude, there's so much going on there, dude. There's so much going on.
What are we doing here, dude?
She was like, nobody understands how much love there is in the world after I spent 10 minutes on the outer rim of Earth.
Yeah, that lady's dumb as shit. I mean, I feel like there's a chance that she actually did go higher up when she was riding that tiger at the Super Bowl halftime show.
You got anything?
Yeah, just called to Thalia, and I think we have a date for the next shed.
Nice.
The next shed.
So the shed
show.
Yeah, we help produce a live entertainment thing in a house party.
Oh, okay.
Call it the shed. It's pretty fun. June 14th.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Put it in the calendar. More details to come.
Yeah, and everybody make sure you like and subscribe. Do it on Spotify, do it on YouTube, wherever you watch podcasts. Later.
Bye.